Good morning, everyone. This is Maureen, and I am just here to continue on my weekly Reflection Saturday. I started this little blog to share with you a conversation that I had with, well, really, I've had it with many folks, but that one question that always comes up: why crochet? Why do isn't there something else you could have chosen? No, not for me. Now, it could have been very easy for someone to say, why cooking? Why sewing? Why horseback riding? Just why do you do something? Um, why do you enjoy it? Explain it to me. And so that's what I thought that this nice little weekly session with you could be. Why crochet? Why do we love to crochet? Now, if you caught me last week, you saw that in wanting to share our craft, we needed to look at a little differently how it is that we draw in other folks into wanting to be a crocheter just like ourselves. Now, it's not any different than, someone, especially our kids, when they say, Grandma or Mommy, will you teach me how to cook? You get all excited and you're like, yes, I'll teach you how to cook. But first, we need to go over some little rules. We need to talk about things that we need. And that's what I shared with you last week. Um, if you have someone that is really interested in wanting to learn your craft, whether it's crochet, knitting, painting, cooking, wood crafting, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's something that you really enjoy and someone else wants to learn that craft so that they can experience that same enjoyment with you, I think it's really important to take just a little bit of time and set them up for success. So if you were here with me last week, I talked to you about uh, getting them some essential tools without breaking the bank. You don't have to go out and buy a whole set of hooks, do you? I mean, Granny didn't do that for me. She gave me one hook and one skein of yarn. She also, as I talked to you about, gave me my own pair of scissors and told me how important it was that these scissors were only used for cutting my yarn. And she gave me a little pouch to keep them in. Now, I didn't have the fancy little tape measures that we have now. She gave me a little cloth one, and you know what? I tend to not think about mentioning this, but she also gave me a little ruler. Now, the one I got was wooden, but it was just a little 6-inch ruler because you don't always need to pull out that big old tape measure to look to see. Um, like especially if you're working on a smaller project or you want to look at your gauge, which that just comes along with learning how to crochet. But I tend to forget to mention, sometimes maybe just getting a 12-inch ruler, even folks, will work. But anyway, I'm kind of getting a little bit off topic for today. But I just told you, how important it is to set them up with their own tools. Because quite frankly, it'll keep them from getting into yours and them getting lost or, left in their own project. But isn't it wonderful when folks want to share in what it is that brings us enjoyment? So I hope that you not only took away from last week the fact of giving them their own tools, but I also told or shared with you the importance I feel that it is for them to keep a journal. You know, why did you want to learn to crochet? Let them, one or two sentences. It doesn't have to be anything big and long. It doesn't have to be like an essay. And then let them write down what it is that they learned for the day. Maybe it was just learning how to hold the hook and how to make chains with it. Maybe it was uh, going and picking out their first skein of yarn and already having a project in mind in which to work with it. Whatever it is, allow them the time to sit down and write about what they're learning. Because here's another nice thing that it will teach them to do, which my grandma didn't teach me. It's just something that I kind of developed on my own later. And I tried to instill that then in my oldest daughter when she wanted to learn, and then in my grandson when he wanted to learn. Not only the journaling to write down what it is you're learning, maybe even write out some notes for yourself, but to learn how to also read a pattern. Teach them the shorthand that goes along with the stitches. Um, Teach them all the other types of abbreviations that have nothing to do with the crochet at all. Like ST means stitch. EA means each, because some folks really do a very concise shorthand. Um, some of them will even say, instead of until the end, to the end, with W and a slash. I mean, there are all sorts of abbreviations that we see out there in written patterns nowadays, but I think that's important too. Let them start keeping a log of abbreviations that they run across with the full explanation of the stitch that they're learning, or maybe, like I said, a new abbreviation that they've run across. Um, and then just let them sit down and start learning how to crochet. Today I want to talk about, why do we crochet? It's not only just to end up with a project, is it? Many of us would also like to insert the fact that crochet is very soothing, just like knitting is very soothing. Cutting out material, following a pattern, putting it on the sewing machine, sewing it up and creating something, that is very soothing. Now, I love to crochet simply because I love making things. But many times for myself, I like to just sit down and work on something small and simple, because it allows me to create something without actually having to think about what I'm doing. Like right now, I am working on a square for a project that I'm collaborating with a lot of other folks. We are creating some squares to share with one another, and then put together to make our own blankets. And so I'm working on different stitches for about, I think, 16, 17 squares that I can share out with other folks, keep one for myself, and then I will eventually get their squares and we'll put them all together and, you know, make our own blanket, kind of like a friendship blanket. You know what I mean? And I can look at the square and say, oh, this is from friend A, this one's from friend B. Won't that be cool? But in the meantime, while I'm making up these little squares, I am being able to just sit back and crochet. I mean, not just sit back and crochet, but it gives me a little calm. Um, I remember walking in on my grandma. In fact, sometimes you wouldn't even know that she was in the living room or in the den, but you'd hear somebody talking. And you'd peek around the corner, and there she would be sitting on the couch or in her favorite rocker. And she'd just be crocheting and knitting and talking to herself. Well, that's what I thought it was. I always thought she was just talking to herself. And sometimes, I mean, she'd be laughing. And so finally one day I just said, Grandma, who are you talking to when you're crocheting? You know what I'm going to say? Yeah, you know what I'm going to say. She says, I was just having a conversation with God. And I was like, what? So you were praying? Well, yes, I guess you could say I was praying, but I was just sitting here talking to him. You don't have to set aside a special time to talk to God. You can just sit there and talk to him whenever you want to. And she says, I find that many times when I can just sit here, what else do I have to do, especially if I'm just doing the same thing over and over again? I can sit here and spend time and talk to God, just like I'm spending time here talking to you. I don't have to really concentrate on what it is I'm doing because it's a very easy little stitch, easy little pattern. So I can basically do two things at once. But Grandma said she loved it because not only did it give her that special extra time to talk to God, but it also allowed her to create something. And she felt like too that by talking to God while she was doing this, that she was putting a little bit of his love, his presence into each little stitch that she put into it. So, not only do I find that crocheting is a great stress releaser, but it does allow me time to sit back and just share my thoughts, whether it's with God or like right now, I'm sharing my thoughts with you. Um, and I'm getting two things done at once. Isn't that cool? And I also love doing just simple little stitches or little patterns um, and on small projects. And I can normally get one or two done a night whenever I'm doing this, especially when my husband says, hey, let's sit down and watch a movie together. Okay, well, I don't mind watching movies with him, but I shouldn't say I don't like, but I don't want to just sit there and watch the movie. I always have to be doing something. So I get quite a few either granny squares or like what I'm doing right here or washcloths. Now, honestly, folks, that really is when I find the best time to get all my washcloths that I want done completed is to just sit down with him and get my cotton, get my hook that I really do love to use, and get them put together. So it's why crochet? Well, let me show you some things that I've done just in the last couple of nights by doing just my crochet. Now here's going to be another square. See, it's got to be about 12 inches square, and I'm using for this particular square I'm using what's called the knotted half double crochet, and of course you know that got me right there when it said half double crochet. I'm always in if it has something to do with a half double crochet. But I completed just in the last couple of days 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 5 squares. I'm sorry, I just couldn't get past the four, it looked like. So this is one square that's made with I'm going to call it the extended, no, excuse me, is it this one? Yes, it is this one. The alternate stitch is used mainly with single crochets. And what you do is in one single crochet, you crochet in the back loop, and in the next one, you crochet in the front loop. And you just alternate back and forth, back and forth, back and forth till you get to the end. You finish off the row with a single crochet through both loops, chain one, turn, start with a single crochet, and then you start alternating in the loops again. That's the reason why it's called the alternate stitch. Well, I did the same thing yesterday using the half double crochet, and folks, it made such a nice squishy square. Let me tell you, I'm going to use this pattern on several of the next washcloths. So whenever I pull out my next cotton scone, I'm going to make several of them using this stitch just because it's very squishy. It really is. And we all know that whenever we are using washcloths to wash our face or to take a bath, I mean, isn't that what we like to do? We like something soft and squishy, and oh my goodness, this is acrylic yarn. I mean, nothing fancy. This is Red Heart, but folks, it made such a nice squishy stitch. And two, I want you to look at the pattern there. Isn't that pretty? Look at that. That way, and it's the same on both sides. I just thought that was really cool. So I'll be making another one out of this. I'm trying to come up with 8 different stitches so that I can make 2 of each and just be done. Now this other one that I made, it is also It's a little more textured than this other one, and it is not the same on both sides. It's flat on the front, on the back. But on the front, it has this cute little bauble. And actually, that's what it is. It's just a one loop bauble, but it makes this cute little stitch that's called the Mayberry stitch. And you can either stagger them by the way you start and end the row. You can either stagger them, or you can just do a one row repeat and just have them stand on top of each other. Excuse me, it's a 2-row repeat because you have to have a row of double crochets, and then the next one is actually where you put the little bauble in. But it makes such a nice little texture there. See that pretty little, and if I let me fold it so that you can see that there. Isn't that pretty? But so that's another square that I made. Again, it's just another mindless stitch, and it didn't take me very long, maybe just a little over an hour, hour and a half of watching TV with my husband to get that one done. I love this next stitch, folks. I use it quite a bit in squares, especially when I'm using up yarn. This is called the sprig stitch, and I really like it. There's nothing to it actually. You have one row of double crochets that are together in one stitch, and then the next row is actually just a did I say double crochet? I'm sorry, 2 single crochets in the same stitch, skip 1, 2 singles, and then in the next row you actually do a single crochet V stitch where it's a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet in the same stitch, and it's put in between those two that are together. But it makes this really nice textured stitch there, and as I said, it's called the sprig stitch, and it's reminiscent, honestly, when you get to seeing it. It reminds you of the little sprigs that come out, as new growth on bushes, tree limbs, especially out in the springtime. So I really love this stitch in making washcloths as well. It's one of my favorites, one of my go-tos, just like my like the alternate stitch that I told you about a minute ago with the single crochet. I've never done it with the double, but I'm certainly going to do it now. And this one, haven't made up my mind if I like it or not, because although it was supposed to be a 12 by 12, and it's not quite measuring up to these other ones, number one. And I think I might have used the wrong hook with it, because these others I've been using an I hook, and I think I grabbed the H hook on this one because I have out both of my wooden rosewood hooks from Furls, and I think I didn't pay attention to the marking on it. But anyway, it is still a very pretty stitch. It is just a 1-row repeat of the double crochet V stitch, double crochets, chain 1, double crochets, and I don't know, I'm just not feeling it, so I'll probably rip this out and do something else with it and just come up with another stitch that I want to use. But folks, the reason why I'm showing you these is because they helped me to relax. And I've shared with many of you from time to time that I take medication for depression and anxiety. And even though the medication gets me through most days, sometimes just some little out of the blue incident, a phone call, just something, and I can't describe what it is, but just something will get me out of whack. And I will, especially for my anxiety, I will feel it creeping in, and I can feel myself starting to get agitated. I turn to my crochet. I really do. I turn to it, especially if I'm not doing it at the time. I will pick up, and even if I can't get to focus well enough to work on a project that I've already got started, I know that I can always pick up a hook, pick up the yarn, start chaining, and make a square. That's all. That's all. So for me, I see crochet as being a nice stress releaser. Um, think about coming in from work. What do we normally do? I can tell you what I used to do. I used to come in, I used to grab the mail, take a few moments to look at it, and, you know, oh, there's another bill. Oh, so that's going to, and then whatever it is that you bring home from work, for me being a school teacher, it was always normally either papers to grade or to make sure in my mind I knew exactly how I was going to have the next day outlined. Yes, I made lesson plans, but still you get to thinking about what you need to do the next day. We shouldn't, but we do it anyway, don't we? Um, and then, of course, what are we going to have for supper, especially if I didn't set something else or if I didn't throw it in the crock pot? We got a plan for that. And so many times by the time we get through with coming home and getting everything else settled, whatever our stress level was by the time we got home, it's already ratcheted up another step or two. So for me, it was really relaxing knowing that I could sit down, even if it was just for 30 minutes, and tell everybody, leave me alone, I need just a little bit of quiet time. It, it allowed me to release the tension. And it still does. Now, not that I have that much tension anymore, but like I said, every once in a while something hits and I get all tensed up. I start getting anxious, or maybe I've had some bad news. And what do I immediately do? The best way to describe it is just like shutting down. So, again, for me, I reach for my crochet because my crochet is what helps me to de stress. And I know you know that too, don't you? I mean, tell me, share with me, what is one of the most favorite things that you like to do when you are in between projects? Do you work on a square? Do you do a few extra washcloths? And I want you to also think about the fact that when you do up these little squares, um, I hope that you have in mind the idea to put them in a bag. When you know you've got enough, let's make a blanket out of them. Um, and what's wrong with keeping 12, 20 extra little washcloths on hand? You know, they make wonderful last minute gifts. Put 4, 6 of them together, wrap them up in a little ribbon, go to the store real quick, maybe get a bath bomb or two, stick it in a little basket with a card. Um, Makes a nice little I'm thinking of you gift. It also makes wonderful gifts for that new mama just coming home, with a new baby. Have that nice little soft washcloth that they can take care of their baby with. Maybe even just for themselves to wash their face, getting ready for bed or hopefully for a little nap. Um, to me, washcloths can serve many, many purposes. Or make it a little bit bigger and turn it into a tea towel. I believe now we call them cup towels, kitchen cloths, whatever you want to do with them. But there are just so many things that we can make with small projects. So don't think that you have to sit down and work on something big. Take take just a little bit of time and make up a square. Take just a little bit of time and maybe uh, do a small scarf. Do a itty bitty doll blanket for that little girl down the street, or for your granddaughter that still loves to play with dolls. They love wrapping them things up in little blankets too. So think of many ways in which you can sit down for just 30 minutes. You'll find out, like I did, many times it turn into an hour possibly. But use your crochet to help you to de-stress from the day, or that can help you to focus in on having some prayer time. You know, Hey God, I've got a few moments here. Let's just sit and chat. Let me tell you about my day. You know that God loves to hear that just as much. So use your crochet to help you to calm yourself, to help you to relax, to help you to take just a few moments for yourself. Because many times we're the last person that we think of that needs to be taken care of, right? Well, set aside every day at least 30 minutes to do something that you enjoy. Now, if it's not crochet, that's fine. Maybe it's reading a book. Maybe it's just sitting back and enjoying a hot cup of tea, glass of wine, but find some time in which you can de-stress. And like I said, for many of us that might be crocheting, might be knitting, it might be tatting, might be reading a book, but whatever it is that you truly, truly enjoy, allow it to be your why you do it. And one of the reasons why you do it is because it helps you to find a few moments of enjoyment for yourself. That's all I have for you for this week's reflections, folks. Think of it more as a little talk about us taking care of ourselves, even if it's just for 30 minutes a day. Because when we take care of so many other people, we are giving and giving and giving. And eventually that battery just flat dies, doesn't it? So take a few moments to recharge yourself. Find a project. Big project if you like. But for me, like I said, I like for it to be something small that I know I can start and finish during my relaxation time. So you try that as well. Okay? I love sitting here chatting with you guys. I really, really do. Please share with me down in the comments ways that you find to relax. Also share with me, why do you like to crochet? Why do you like to knit? Why do you like to embroider or to tat? Why do you enjoy your craft? What does it mean to you? I would really, really love to hear your comments. So again, let me always remind you, please be the light out there in the darkness for someone today, because you never know. Could be your special light that they need to see. I know that you're mine, and I hope that I am yours. Until tomorrow, folks, I love you. Bye.